Here's what's coming up.
U.S. President Joe Biden is welcoming a ceasefire deal between Israel and the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon. Voters in Namibia cast their ballots for a new president and parliament in what could be a difficult election to win for the ruling SWAPO party. And U.S. President-elect Donald Trump nominates a television host and former veteran as defense secretary. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54.
U.S. President Joe Biden is welcoming a ceasefire deal between Israel and the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon. However, there's no indication the deal will hasten a truce and hostage release deal in Gaza, where Israel is battling the Palestinian militant group Hamas. White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara has this report.
After days of Israeli strikes on the capital Beirut and other cities in Lebanon and rocket fire from Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah into Israel, a ceasefire between the warring parties lauded by U.S. President Joe Biden Tuesday.
Effective at 4 a.m. tomorrow local time, the fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities.
Biden spoke following a speech by Benjamin Netanyahu earlier on Tuesday. The Israeli Prime Minister agreed to a ceasefire after over a year of cross-border clashes initiated by Hezbollah over the war in Gaza, where Israel is battling Hamas, another Iran-backed group.
With the United States' full understanding, we maintain full freedom of military action. If Hezbollah violates the agreement and tries to arm itself, we will attack. If it tries to rebuild terrorist infrastructure near the border, we will attack.
Netanyahu said Israel needs to refocus attention on its operations in Gaza following Hamas' deadly terror attack on Israel last October and the threat posed by Iran. But there is no indication the truce in Lebanon will lead to a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas.
Over the coming days, the United States will make another push with Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, Israel, and others to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza.
In an address to a United Nations forum Tuesday, Iran accused the Israeli government of war crimes and genocide and welcomed the recent arrest warrant for Israel's leader issued by the International Criminal Court over the war in Gaza.
We are all obliged under international law to assist the Palestinian people in their lawful and legitimate struggle to secure their right for self-determination against occupation and apartheid.
Under the ceasefire, Israeli forces will retreat south of the Lebanon-Israel border, while Hezbollah will move north of the Litani River. The plan calls for the Lebanese army, which is not involved in the Israeli-Hezbollah fighting, to patrol the region between the two warring sides. The U.S. and France will help monitor ceasefire violations. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
It's election day in Namibia, and voters waited in long queues outside polling stations in the capital Windhoek on Wednesday to cast their ballots for a new president and parliament in what could be a difficult election to win for the ruling Southwest Africa People's Organization, or SWAPO party. SWAPO has governed the Southern African nation since leading it to independence from apartheid South Africa in 1990. Its presidential candidate, Vice President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, would be the country's first female leader if she wins. Namibia is currently led by interim President Nangolo Bumba, who took over in February after former President Hage Geingob died. Political analysts said there's a possibility SWAPO will be ousted by youth who are fed up with high unemployment, inequality, and corruption allegations. Reporter Tracy Tafiranyika joins us now from Windhoek, Namibia. Tracy, tell us what your observations on today's voting process look like.
Yes, good day. So voting continues here across Namibia, and we expect polling stations to be closed by 9 p.m. as per the communication from the Electoral Commission of Namibia. So most of the polling stations opened on time and had long queues There have been complaints of queues that were not moving fast at most polling stations. But then, however, most polling stations gave assistance to the elderly and pregnant women and also gave them first preferences. There were issues on Tuesday, which is yesterday, whereby the ECN admitted to technical glitches regarding people whose voter registration numbers were also showing on the cards of other people. But we expect ECN to solve the issue, to release a comprehensive press statement today.
Well, sounds there are technical issues. Do we know when the Electoral Commission of Namibia will start counting these votes and when you are likely to have some sort of results?
Okay, so we expect the ECN to start counting the votes soon after the polling station closes, which is today at 9 p.m. Namibia does not really have a history of unnecessary delaying in elections results, as we have seen in other parts of the continent. The polling stations are allowed to post the results, so party agents are able to compile this while the media is allowed to report on how parties are doing in various constitutions. So we expect the results to start being counted in from many of these polling stations today by 9 p.m.
A lot of people in the continent are very curious to know how it would be like for Namibians to have their first female president. What are you hearing from your fellow Namibians?
So far, it's a lot of mixed opinions. We are not so sure because according to people on the ground, people that we have interviewed, actually, they have said that, the other people, it's 50-50, and the other group is supporting the Independence Patriot for Change, Dr. Pendulani Tula, while others are supporting the SWAPO party president, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. So it's actually a lot of mixed opinions, and we do not, I do not know what will turn out, but it's likely to be 50-50. I'm not so sure about that.
Tracy, you're very young. You are among the Gen Zs who are trying to make changes across the continent. What are the younger people like you looking forward to whoever wins this presidency?
So basically what young people are looking for here in Namibia is actually a candidate or a party that is actually going to make change in terms of unemployment. We have seen a number of people that are unemployed. A lot of people are in the streets. A lot of people cannot be able to provide food on the table. A lot of young people, they cannot get jobs despite them graduating. So what the Namibian youth want is job opportunities, so that at least if they get jobs, they can be able to support their families with the jobs that they will get.
Tracy, many thanks for your great reporting. Tracy Tafiranyika reporting live for us from Windhoek, Namibia. We're staying in Namibia for analysis on the high-stakes elections, and now I'm joined live from the capital again in Windhoek by Rui Titende, a Namibia political analyst. Rui, what's at stake really for this election?
Well, Namibia has entered the epoch of unpredictable politics. For the past 34 years, the governing party has had quite a stronghold on the country's policy-making processes. But since 2019, they have faced some serious challenges from the opposition. For the first time since independence, the governing party's presidential support dropped significantly. In 2014, the presidential candidate of the governing party garnered 87%, and in 2019, it dropped significantly to 56%. So we can technically say that the ruling party, SWAPO, is in the political intensive care unit. The consequence of that is high unemployment, perceived corruption that permeates throughout the structures of the party, as well as food insecurity and unemployment amongst a litany of socioeconomic issues.
Rui, give our viewers a brief about, insight as to who Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah is.
Well, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah is a stalwart of the liberation struggle. She joined the governing party at quite a young age, under 20, I believe. She has been a seasoned diplomat in our political landscape, studied international relations, also did some qualifications, postgraduate qualifications in various disciplines. So people think of her as the educated warrior that will somehow rescue Namibia from the doldrums of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. However, there are also those that think that Namibia is not ready for a woman to lead them because to a large extent, Namibia is still a patriarchal society, despite the fact that SWAPO, the governing party, has endorsed her overwhelmingly during the November 2022 elective Congress. She has quite a calm demeanor. She is perceived as a mother figure, someone that listens even to opposition voices. So it'll be interesting to see how these kind of leadership qualities will play out should she become president of the country.
So how do her policies and her closest rival compare?
The closest rival has made serious inroads into our political space. In 2019, the latest or the closest rival is Panduleni Itula, who is the president of the Independent Patriots for Change. In 2019, he garnered 29% of the presidential vote. And since then, he has been able to spread his party's political tentacles across the 14 regions of the country by taking leadership positions in certain regional and local authority councils, and also being able to galvanize an urban class, an urban base, the educated elite, and also to a large extent, the rural voters. But the question is, to what extent will he be able to really upset the dominance of the governing party as the election results are being tallied?
Rui, many thanks. That was very great insight, and we look forward to knowing who is going to lead Namibia. Rui
Thank you so much.
Right. Rui Tende is a Namibian political analyst. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump made a largely unexpected pick to run the world's largest military, nominating Fox News television host and Army veteran Pete Hegseth to be Defense Secretary. VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Bob has more.
Pete Hegseth is a decorated Army National Guard veteran who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Guantanamo Bay. But the former weekend host of the TV show Fox and Friends has no previous experience in government or in running a large organization.
I think this is an extremely unusual pick. This is not a starter job. And, you would expect someone coming into this job to have a significant amount of managerial experience.
Hegseth raised his profile by hinting at several changes to the Defense Department, opposing the Pentagon's diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which he has called woke.
There is no black, white, or brown in our ranks. We're all green, and we all bleed red. Our strength is not in our diversity, but in our unity and in our love for our nation, our families, and most of all, each other.
Hegseth has also suggested removing women from combat positions.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
Marine Corps researchers compared all-male and gender-integrated combat units from 2014 to 2015. They found the all-male units were faster and stronger, but the gender-integrated groups had better problem-solving skills. Morale remained the same. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had this message to the women now serving in combat positions after completing the same grueling task as men.
I think our women add significant value to the United States military. We need you. We have faith in you. We are appreciative of your service, and you add value to the finest and most lethal fighting force on earth.
Trump has praised his Harvard and Princeton educated pick as tough, smart, and a true believer in America. After Hegseth's nomination, reports surfaced of a sexual assault allegation from 2017. Hegseth paid the accuser at the time, he says, to avoid publicity. He also says the encounter was consensual.
The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's probably.
A Senate majority must confirm Hegseth's nomination. While Republicans currently hold the majority by 3 seats, analysts say that doesn't guarantee confirmation, with a stance against women in combat that many in Congress see as outdated.
As I look at the senators, you have Senator Joni Ernst there, herself a female combat veteran. I'm sure she'll have some interesting questions for him about his opinions on that. So from my perspective, that's going to be a very challenging issue.
President-elect Trump had rocky relationships with defense secretaries in his first administration. One of them, former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper, has called Trump unfit for office. Officials say Hex's loyalty to Trump is strong. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
Some people in Africa and the U.S. are optimistic about future relations with Africa under Donald Trump's second term. A strategic shift could counter China and Russia's influence on the continent. To talk more about how a second Trump term might affect U.S.-Africa relations, my colleague Paul Ndiho joins me in the studio with a very special guest.
Thanks, Esther. I'm pleased to have with me today to talk about what we can expect from Africa-U.S. relations, a Trump second term. Ambassador Thibault Anaj Jr. is here. He served as the Assistant Secretary for African Affairs in President Trump-elect's first administration. Ambassador Anaj, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much, Paul, for having me.
Let me take this opportunity to congratulate you and your former boss on having been re-elected as the President of the United States.
Thanks very much.
So as the former top diplomat for African affairs, what should we expect when it comes to the Trump second term for Africa?
Well, I'm very optimistic. I don't think that people should worry about the slogan, America first, because that does not mean America only. And there are a lot of areas where interests between the U.S. and Africa intersect. As the intro said, China, we very much see as an existential long-term threat. And so I think that we will be a little bit more honest in saying, yes, part of our African relations are about China. Then there are the very important issue of critical minerals. Why should China monopolize all the critical minerals in Africa when it would do much better if Western, i.e. American companies were also involved? So I think Africans should be optimistic. I think they will have a lot more deals and a lot fewer lectures.
A quick follow-up to your point. There are a lot of people who say that China, Russia, they are having an edge over the United States in Africa. What can the Trump presidency do better to compete with those two countries?
Well, I think you will agree that what Africans want more than anything else, especially young Africans, and everyone knows that there are millions and millions and millions of young Africans, are jobs. And frankly, yes, China has done an awful lot of infrastructure projects, but how many jobs did the African young people get out of that? I think the truth is that from American and Western type of investment, they do lead to the kind of jobs that young Africans are looking for. And I think that that will be a successful foreign policy, and I think that that will be the true kind of win-win for both sides.
President-elect Trump is proposing a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the United States. Obviously, with AGOA, Africans were supposed to bring goods to the United States free of tariffs. What should we expect?
Well, I think what we should expect to see what actually happens, aside from during campaigns, a lot of things are said, and then what the actual policy is might be a little bit different. I mean, AGOA is a law passed by Congress, and I'm sure that the United States of America will comply with that law. And as you also well know, that law will be going out soon, and everybody's kind of looking forward and wondering what kind of a new AGOA there will be.
You just reminded me of a famous quote from Mario Cuomo, the former governor of New York, who said that when you're campaigning, you campaign in prose, and when you're governing, you govern in poetry. So I like the take. How about the issue of, let's say, the Sahel? We have a crisis in the Sahel. We have wars in Sudan, in DRC. Yeah. How can the Trump administration maybe do better on this front?
The 3 C's, crises, conflicts, and coups, have really been horrible. And again, here, U.S. engagement needs to be different. Our lecturing, for example, the military government in Niger, I think had a lot to do with us being kicked out of some very valuable air bases, where we had agreements with. And the whole issue of coups, I think it's important for the United States to look at coups individually. And when a coup happens and we say it's a coup, then we have to cut certain ties and engagements. So what we do is we call some coups coups and other coups not coups, as happened, for example, in Gabon. We didn't call it a coup. So we just need to be a little bit more honest and say we really need to be much more flexible in how we engage with those governments, because often a military government really needs engagement more to kind of help them see the way forward, especially those that are very popular with the people when they happen.
Very briefly, what would you do differently if you get your old job back?
Well, I'm not looking to get my old job back, because being assistant secretary once is enough. I would look differently to be a little bit less hypocritical, to drop the megaphone, to engage with African governments where they are, not where we want them to be, and to see the world as it is, and especially put so much more energy into the Sudan, Ethiopia, Sahel, those kinds of conflicts. Unfortunately,
Ambassador, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you. Ambassador Tibor Nagy served as U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs in the first Donald Trump administration. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Paul. That was a very informative interview. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, we'll have the inside scoop on New York's Thanksgiving Day Macy's Parade. Stay with us.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, Namibians are heading to the polls to vote for a new president and parliament on November 27. The former Liberation Party, the Southwest Africa People's Organization, or SWAPO, has been in power for 34 years, but now support is waning. High unemployment, poverty, and corruption has young Namibians yearning for change. Join me, Peter Clotty, for an in-depth look at the elections in Namibia.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Thanks to medical advancements, AIDS is no longer one of the top 10 global causes of death, according to the World Health Organization. However, it continues to be one of the world's most serious health and development challenges. UNAIDS says close to 40 million people are living with HIV, and more than half of them are in Eastern and Southern Africa. On this week's edition of Our Voices, we will take a deeper look into the status of HIV/AIDS and its spread in sub-Saharan Africa. We will discuss how societal inequalities contribute to HIV prevalence and whether Africa is on the right track to end AIDS by 2030. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
You're watching Africa 54 from the Voice of America headquarters here in Washington, D.C. In other news, 6 Southern African countries, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, are voicing disappointment with new efforts by the British Labour Party government to introduce a bill that seeks to ban the importation of wildlife trophies from Africa. Representatives from the 6 nations are requesting a meeting with British government officials to discuss the issue. The Labour Party came into power in Britain this year, promising to eliminate hunting in the United Kingdom within 5 years. For nearly 100 years, Americans have enjoyed watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The spectacle is an annual tradition that aims to make millions of consumers feel connected to the department store. VOA's Dora McCoy looks at the parade preparation.
Preparation for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade begins up to a year before the extravaganza actually starts. Millions of Americans tune in to watch.
There are well over 8,000 people that will march down the streets of New York in front of the 3.5 million viewers on the street and nearly 30 million at home.
This year, 22 floats, 11 bands, and multiple performance groups will participate in the parade, along with 17 character balloons that can reach up to 6 stories tall. In the days leading up to the procession, Macy's, the U.S. department store that sponsors the parade, offered previews of what's to come.
We're ushering in the holidays. So what we're trying to do when we create these floats and balloons is tell a quick, fun story that entertains, surprises, and delights.
The night before the parade, these floats and balloons are folded down to the size of buses and driven from this New Jersey warehouse into New York City. The spectacle is 100 years old. The very first Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade kicked off in 1924. It's become an American tradition that allows the department store to attach its name to one of the biggest U.S. holidays of the year.
There's not a lot of things in American culture that last that long. In this era of digital communication and performance marketing, there's something just wholesome about a parade down the street that resonates with a lot of shoppers.
Macy's won't say how much it spends on the pageant, but estimates put the price tag at more than $13 million. Brands do sponsor some of the floats, balloons, and performances.
It is our gift to the city of New York, and it is our gift to the country. And as with any gift, it comes without a cost.
It's a gift that makes viewers feel connected to the Macy's brand, experts say.
Something like the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade that has such a rich history that binds families, creates family experiences, and it is seen as wholesome and American, becomes almost a cultural icon.
The parade traditionally kicks off with a turkey and ends with the arrival of Santa Claus. It's Macy's way of reminding American consumers that the holiday shopping season has begun. Dora McCoy, VOA News, New York City.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.